Hey guys, my name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing another romance recommendations video. It has been over a year since I've done my last romance recommendations video because I haven't been reading as much romance in the past year as I typically do. But even still, within the last year, I've read a handful of romances that I think are worth recommending. I have very particular taste when it comes to romance books, which is why I think I'm so picky when it comes to romance. But these romance books that I'm recommending to you today are some of my absolute god tiers, and I'm very excited about them. And as I said in my TBR video, I think February is a very romantic month. For whatever reason, maybe it's Valentine's Day, I don't really know, but I think it's the perfect time to recommend some romance books. But before we do jump into the recommendations, I wanted to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor. It's a new sponsor on this channel, and it is Native. And if you didn't know, Native is a deodorant company, and I've recently switched to using their deodorants because they're aluminum free. I love the textures of their deodorant because they're very non-sticky, and they're long lasting with scent because they keep the scent even after a workout or after a very long day. They have a wide range of different choices for different scents that you can try, but the three that I've selected is the cucumber and mint, the lavender and rose, and the coconut and vanilla. And I think out of these three so far, my favorite has got to be the cucumber and mint. I don't know why, I'm just a huge fan of cucumber smelling deodorant, but I'm also a huge fan of the coconut and vanilla because the smell is just so lovely, and the lavender and rose is just like a really relaxing scent. Like, I love anything with lavender. But what I like about Native is that they're using simple ingredients that you know, like coconut oil and shea butter. They are vegan and cruelty free, and they have free shipping to the US. From the creative packaging to the unique scents, you'll be transported to another world without ever leaving your house. I've been using all three of these for a couple of days now, and I've got to say I'm so glad I made the switch to Native because these deodorants smell so good. So typically 3 deodorants will cost $36 from Native, but when you use my code in the link in the description, you'll get 3 of them for $24, which saves you 33%. Yeah, definitely be sure to check out that link below if Native is something you're interested in trying. And thank you so much to Native for sponsoring today's video and supporting my channel and the booktube community. All right, and now we shall get into the romance recommendations. The very first recommendations that I have for you are Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, as well as Take a Hint Danny Brown. I do own the second book, but my mom is reading it right now. These are 2 books that I read last summer that I really freaking enjoyed. If you didn't know, this is the first book in the series, and then this is the second book. They're only considered a series because they're following the same set of sisters in the books, but you can read one as a standalone if you'd like to. Get a Life Chloe Brown follows this woman named Chloe Brown, if you couldn't get that from the title. Something that is unique about her character is that she's chronically ill, and I've never read about a character before that experiences chronic pain, and so that was definitely something that was really eye-opening about reading this book to me. At the beginning of this book, her life flashes before her eyes, and she realizes she hasn't really lived the life that she's wanted to. So she creates this list of all the things that will help her get a life, quote unquote. And she meets this guy, Red, who's like her building's superintendent, and he is going to help her with her list of trying to get a life. And it's such a cute book. I adored it so hard. And then we have Take a Hint Danny Brown, which this one was actually my favorite out of the 2 because I really related to Danny's character a whole lot in this book because she's an English professor, which is so cool. She's bisexual, she has pink hair, and like she's just everything I strive to be, you know? She develops this romance with this guy named Zaf in this book, and it's really cute because in this book there's like a fake dating trope because there's this like video of them that goes viral and it looks like they're dating but they're actually not, and then they decide to fake date to help each other out, and it just made me smile so hard, and it's definitely one of my favorite romances that I read last year. Another one of my absolute favorite romances that just published in January is Shipped by Angie Hockman. This book is described as the hating game meets the unhoneymooners, which if you didn't know, those are like my 2 favorite romances ever. So I had very high hopes going into this book. I thought I was gonna be let down, and I wasn't. And I thought Shipped was just so much fun. Like, we're basically following these 2 people who work for like a cruise line kind of company, and so their job requires them to go on this cruise together to like I don't know, I guess learn more about how they're going to advertise it and stuff, so they understand like what it's actually like to be on the cruise. And then it's kind of like a hate to love because they're both trying to get this same promotion, kind of like The Hating Game, but then it's also very beachy vibes like The Unhoneymooners, and it's just a combination of all of my favorite things, and I adored these two characters so freaking hard. I don't think it was quite on the same like tier level as The Hating Game and The Unhoneymooners, but the comparison is totally valid. It definitely has those same vibes, and this was still like a 5-star book for me. Like I absolutely loved it. So if you need something that is pure escapism, it's a good distraction from the world right now, I would recommend Shipped. And then next up, I would recommend The Dating Plan, because if you're into the whole, you know, fake dating trope, then I think you need to check out this book. This one is really fun because it involves a fake engagement, because it's following these two characters. He needs to get married in order to like get the rights for his like family business. Like his dad recently passed away, and so it's going to his brother unless he gets married. And then she is trying to avoid an arranged marriage because all of her family expects her to get married and they expect to choose the man for her. And so they find out that if they pretend that they're engaged and soon to be married, that a lot of their problems would go away. So they become fake fiancés. It's so cute. It takes place in like the San Francisco Bay Area, and this book was just a whole lot of fun. It was really adorable, and that cover is stunning. We love a good cover. The next romance I have to recommend to you is Someday Someday by Emma Scott. This is one that I actually read at the very end of 2019, but it was actually at the very end of 2019, like right before I read this book, that I did my last romance recommendations video, so I haven't officially recommended this one in a video yet. And this one is one of my favorite male romances of all time, because we're following these two guys, Max and Silas, and they've both gone through some really horrific shit when they were teenagers, and they both experienced a lot of homophobia. Max was kicked out of his house as a teenager because he's gay, and then Silas, something happened to him that's kind of more like spoilery because you don't find out about it until a little bit later on in the book, but both of them went through some really horrific shit, and because of that they both developed these drug problems. And so that's kind of how they meet at the start of the book, is because they're both at this like Narcotics Anonymous group. But then Max is a nurse in this book, and he becomes a nurse to Silas's dad, who's the CEO of this company, and Silas is kind of like expected to become the CEO and like take the place of his father eventually. This is just so entertaining. Like this is like such a like kind of like forbidden romance, because Max is like working as his dad's nurse, and it's just, oh my god, it's everything. I adore these two characters so fucking much. Like they are just so cute together. It just really like, it hurt. Like everything about this book, it just made me cry. It was beautiful. I love these two together, and it was such a sweet romance. Like I just have the strongest urge to want to reread this book. The next recommendation I have is one where you might go, Gabby, what? Because it's The Roommate by Rosie Dannon. And this book, I know a lot of people are reading this book and they're really not enjoying it, and they're thinking it's like really cheesy and really lame, but this book is my guilty pleasure. I freaking adore this book, because this book, okay, it does have a very like cheesy stereotypical romance setup, right? Because we're following this girl Clara, who she like basically just picks up her whole life and moves across the country to move in with this guy that she's been really interested in for like her whole life. And then she finds out as soon as she gets there to LA that this guy is like going on a tour with his band, and then she's gonna have to live there alone with his other roommates. And so her roommate becomes this guy named Josh, and he's a porn star, and she starts to develop an attraction towards him, and they're roommates, and it's fun and it's steamy. And I feel like this book also has a lot to say about the porn industry and how we as a society view people who work in the porn industry. It's just a really interesting conversation happening in this book, and it's also filled with some really cute and some really steamy scenes. Like I don't know what it was about this book, but I just adored Josh and Clara together so hard. I know a lot of people, like I know a lot of the complaints I see with this book is that people don't really like Clara, or they think she's kind of like naive and dumb, or they just don't enjoy the romance, like they don't get hooked into it. But I don't know what it was, I loved it so much. So if this at all sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend The Roommate. It was so fun, and this was like the perfect escapism that I really needed, because I read this when I was going through some kind of difficult things, and so this was just exactly the book that I needed to get out of my head for a few hours. Another one of my favorite recent romances is Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur, and this one is one of my favorites because it's a female-female romance, and it's definitely one of the best female-female relationship books that I've ever read, because there are so very few female-female romances that I've enjoyed for some reason. Like I just feel like I always read ones that are just not written very well, and this one was just so cute. And in this book, we're following these two girls, Darcy and Elle, and they are fake dating in this book, which, you know, if you haven't already guessed, it's one of my favorite tropes. I love reading about fake dating. I don't know what it is, but it just makes my heart so happy. And in this book, they're mainly fake dating because Darcy's brother thinks that they're together and she just wants to make her brother happy and like have her brother stop setting her up on dates all the time. And then it's kind of a similar situation for Elle, like her family just kind of like expects her to be in a relationship. And so they decide to date through the holidays. So they're gonna be dating from like Thanksgiving until like New Year's Eve time. And this book is just the cutest shit ever. I love that it takes place in Seattle because I live in Washington, so that's really cool. And I just thought they were genuinely like so cute together, and it was so much fun to read this book. And I read this book during one of the hardest weeks of my life, so I just really appreciated this book for getting me through that shit and for taking my mind off of things for any amount of time. Like I just really appreciated it, and I adored it so hard. And I also love the talk about astrology in this book because I'm not like super knowledgeable about astrology, but I'm really trying to get into it, trying to learn more about it. So I loved following Elle in this book because her character is really into astrology, so I just loved learning more about it through her eyes. The next one I would recommend is Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. This one has one of my favorite tropes where it's kind of like these two characters already previously are talking to each other online without really knowing that they are who they are. Because of that, it causes some kind of drama a little bit later on because our main love interest dude is an actor in this book, and he's acting on this show that's kind of like equivalent to Game of Thrones, I think is what they're trying to go for here. Like he's on this huge fantasy show, and she's a huge fan of the show, and so she writes fan fiction online for the show, and she's one of the biggest like fan fiction writers for the show. And then he is the actor on the show, but he also writes fan fiction for the show, which is like a low-key secret because I don't think he can legally do that, but he does it on the DL. And so they don't know, but they've been talking to each other on the like fandom forum websites for like years, and they've become really close friends through that. But then there's a situation that happens where they actually meet in real life and they go on a date in real life, and they start like seeing each other in real life, and they don't know that they've already been talking to each other on this fandom website. I don't know why, it's just one of my favorite tropes. I just really love that unique situation of like seeing if someone's the same person as they are online as they are in person. Like, I don't know, it's just really interesting. Something that I really did love about this romance too that I still remember is the fact that their relationships with their parents are like very fleshed out and very complicated and just like realistic. Like, I don't know, I just really thought both of their sets of parents, like their relationships with their parents, were very interesting and complex, and I just really enjoyed this one as a whole. I thought it was a whole lot of fun. Another book that I enjoyed, but I hesitate to really recommend this because I gave this one like maybe 3.5, or maybe I gave it 4 stars, but it's Undercover Bromance by Lisa K. Adams. I would definitely recommend the Bromance Book Club over this one if you haven't read the first book, because this is technically the second book in the Bromance Book Club series. And while I did not enjoy this book as much as I enjoyed the first book, Bromance Book Club, I definitely enjoyed this one a lot more than the third book, which I will not be recommending to you because it sucked. But this book was cute. I know a lot of people are having like issues with this one, or they don't really like this one either. We're following one of the guys, Braden Mack, in this book, and then we also follow the girl Liv, who is Thea's sister from the first book, and she's kind of dealing with this huge thing in her restaurant because they find out that like the owner of the restaurant is like harassing all of these girls that are working at the restaurant. And so the story does kind of revolve around that harassment and everything that's going on in the restaurant, but it also does have like a really cute romance between her and Braden Mack. And I don't know, I just thought they were really cute together, and I thought it was like a perfectly fine romance. Like, it wasn't like one of my absolute favorites, but it was still enjoyable, really cute. And then the last two that I have to recommend to you, I don't even know if these are technically considered romance or if they're more just like young adult contemporary books, but I would recommend the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. These are graphic novels that follow these two young adult boys who are like falling for each other, Nick and Charlie. And they also just announced that this series is becoming a Netflix series and it's getting adapted right now, and I'm just so excited to see this adapted. But these books are just so cute, and they're just so romantic, and they just make my heart so happy, and they're just really easy to get through because, you know, they're graphic novels. Like, you can literally get through this in maybe like less than an hour. And so far I've only read the first 2, but they just make my heart so fucking happy. I know for sure that there's 3 of them that are currently published right now, and I'm pretty sure there's a 4th one coming pretty soon, or maybe it's already out, I don't know. But yeah, I absolutely adore both of these books. Like, they're so freaking adorable. All right, well, that is all for my romance recommendations for you today. Please let me know your thoughts. Do you also enjoy any of these romance books, or I think you should recommend me some romance books that you think I should read. Not to say that this isn't for a future video idea or anything like that, but you know, I would like to maybe make a video reading your romance recommendations in the future here. But you know, maybe this summer, maybe I would like to do a video reading your romance recommendations. So please drop them down below in the comments. If you have any romances that you think I would really enjoy, please let me know. And I'll probably be more encouraged to read it if you give me something like, tell me why you think I would love it. Because if it's anything like these romances that I just mentioned in this video, then I would like to know about it. And yeah, I think it would be really fun to do a video reading your romance recommendations pretty soon here. So please give me all of the recommendations below. I am eternally grateful. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye. What are we fighting for? I can't do this no more. Heading towards the door. What are we fighting for?